everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Do, where it's our show where we review stuff from the world of television, whether that is doing an episode review of a currently on-air show, season by season review of a long-running show or a wrap show, or doing these quick impressions where normally I would watch an old show normally from my past or a brand new show for the first time, and I talk about it for about 20 minutes, and this is all spoiler free, so don't worry. It's mostly my memories / what did I think of the show now rewatching it years afterwards. So this is actually the second time I'm recording this. This is the Neds Declassified episode that was supposed to go live in January, and then I stupidly deleted the footage because I was doing a 2021 raw footage prune because we were wrapped with the year. We had a whole nother channel to lump. We had to get a lot of assets ready to go, so we needed space on my computer. So I accidentally recorded that episode at the very end of 2021. So coming into now, I'm like, damn, it's been a stretch, and also the schedule, and also my personal life. Enough about that. You're only here about Neds Declassified. So here you go. So Neds, I can't say enough about it in a much more positive light. I think out of all the teenage Nickelodeon shows from when I was a kid, which include Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, even iCarly at times, Neds Declassified for me stands out as probably my favorite of the bunch. And that's so weird to say because normally it is usually a battle between Drake and Josh or Zoe 101 mostly. But no, for me, it was always Neds. Neds always was something I think is more akin as a pre-How I Met Your Mother for me, which if you don't know anything about me, my favorite show of all time is How I Met Your Mother, which is a relatable protagonist who has a very complicated quest for love. And not to say Neds Declassified is a How I Met Your Mother type story, it definitely isn't, but it has elements and like shades of the personality like that. As I was rewatching it late last year when I got Paramount Plus, because I was watching the iCarly revival, and eventually the Frasier revival, and I know they have Halo coming out next month, so I was very excited for that. So for me, when it came to that, and then once I finished iCarly pretty quickly, that show wrapped up pretty quickly. Yeah, I know it's season 2's on the way sometime this year, but in terms of season 1, they went through that shit quickly. For Neds, when I discovered that the Nickelodeon backlog was there, like the entire backlog from when I was a child, and it was all there, and I was freaking ready, especially for Neds Declassified, because for the longest damn time, there was no complete series anywhere online. There was nothing on Netflix, surprisingly. There was nothing on Hulu. There was barely any DVDs for the release, which I was like very disappointed. The only way you had to watch it was to order the episodes on Amazon, which I'm like, I'm not doing that. I mean, I love the show a lot, but I wasn't going to do that. And 3 seasons worth, I definitely wasn't. So I waited, and then it was finally time for me to like finally jump back into that world. I've watched reruns there and there after the show wrapped, but I never did a full series rewatch since the show wrapped back in, I want to say 08, 07 or 08. A lot of shows ended around that time period, which kind of sucked. We were kind of like segueing into like my modern era of television now. I have no idea what the hell's going on with freaking Nickelodeon now. I even tuned in for like a long ass time what their content lineup is, which is perfectly fine. I'm not the audience for it anymore. You know, I've definitely aged out of it, and obviously I'm on to a lot of better shows right now. But it always, like, that was kind of like a golden era of Nickelodeon for me. And yeah, everyone says it about their time on Nickelodeon or Disney Channel or Cartoon Network. Oh, when I was watching it, that was the golden era. For me, it was a golden era because we were moving into the 21st century. This is modern television to an extent. So we were kind of like getting this new wave of content going for kids of my generation, and definitely paid off so much. Where, to go back to the point about why Neds stands out to me as the superior show, is that, to be fair, it is not a perfect show. Like, rewatching the show, it was definitely not perfect at all. It was not. And not to say any show is perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect show. But I always held, like, whenever you watch something or you revisit something in a new modern perspective, you start to see the shades of where things were difficult and were different. I definitely would say season 1 definitely was not as strong as I thought it would be. It is the weakest of the 3, which is also shocking because normally these type of shows would get 4 seasons, and no, they stopped at 3, which was kind of surprising for me is like I thought Neds went on for 4 years because like technically it did go on for a lot longer than that, but we only got 3 seasons. And the unique aspect that Neds did compared to any other show on the network that I'm aware of is that instead of they had full half-hour slots, but you would get majority of the time 2 11-minute episodes akin to animation. That's what you kind of would get. So that was kind of a different type of formula where normally you would have the entire half hour to do a whole conflict, have a bunch of subplot, have a lot of comedic moments, and tell your story for that week. But no, sometimes they stretched it out where you would get one 15-minute new episode a week. And it was like, well, that's how cartoons did it. So I'm like, Neds worked it out, and that's kind of how you stretch it out. And for me, I perfectly enjoyed it. You know, they were like very quick and easy. Those episodes were as strong as when you can. And this was definitely an example of the show got better as it progressed. I think season 3, which is the final season, and that was the season where I felt more akin to How I Met Your Mother, where Ned, it's all about, it's growing up. Middle school has always been a very tricky subject to handle in media, no offense. My middle school experience was very much not what Ned's was, to be honest with you. It was quite a nightmare, but I held through, but this isn't the story about my middle school experience. Middle school is a time where you're growing up. You're segueing out of being a kid, and you're kind of becoming an example of what you're going to become in high school and then beyond. Like, you got a very, like, the smallest inkling of what you're going to be in the future. Like, it's the tiniest inkling, but it's like, it's going to eventually blossom into something beautiful down the line. And for this show, like, you can definitely see that where even though, this is kind of not really a spoiler, the first 2 seasons takes place in the 7th grade and the last season takes place the entirety of 8th grade, which was obviously a bit odd. We got flashbacks to the 6th grade time period. It felt like a very different show, in my opinion. I'm not sure if the 6th grade stuff was like, they were in another school, because I know in some states it's grades 1 through 6 in schools, and then in my state it's 6 through 8, which is kind of weird in my opinion, but regardless of how it happened, regardless of how it pitched, that's kind of how it was. Where, to get back to my point, you definitely felt the change where, like, okay, season 1, you can kind of akin to, like, 6th grade. Season 2 was 7th grade, and season 3 was 8th grade. So you saw the characters grow and develop, and that's another, a great thing they took advantage of, is that you have that growing up period where, yeah, Zoe 101 was in high school, but they were already tackling on teen problems. Even Scott Fellows, the creator of this show, his next show, Big Time Rush, they were already very elder teenagers, young adults by the time point. So we never really got to see, like, characters actually growing up, so to speak, like actually going through the motions of school, because this is a school-centric show. And again, quoting off Zoe 101 for a second, yeah, that was set in a school, but the school stuff never really valued to the story at the time. They kind of did their own thing with their own drama and their problems. They did that. Ned's actually, you have those moments of, you see the bond between actual school issues. Like, you know, there are episodes where it's named after actual classes you might have in middle school, and having the characters deal with that, and as well as having them grow as characters. There's actual character development, there's character growth. The characters, obviously, you see at episode 1 is not the same by the final episode, and I really applaud them for that. They really understood, yeah, these actors are growing up in real time, and they matured the plot a little bit. Not too much. It's still a kid's show. I'm not saying like it's a big drama or anything, but like they grew. They actually got a little more serious at times, and they actually had like legitimate questions of like it's like one of those like actual real will they won't they type of things, and so to speak, as well as for me, like one of my strongest akins of this show is that, and it's always cliche of like majority of TV shows doing this, whether that is in movies or in TV shows, animes, like anything I watch, there's always a trio of friends, and they're kind of like the protagonists. Or like, yeah, you have Ned, you have Mose, you have Cookie, and I said this before in my other taping that these characters on paper should not be friends. They really should not be, but they work. Like, they're just those awkward childhood friends that just stuck together, and like they really formed, like, it's not much of a similarity bond, but it's more like a familiar bond, and that's what resonated with me, because for me, like all throughout my life, I've always had like those pair of friends that like they stuck with me and they helped me out, and on paper we should not have been friends at all, but we we stuck together, and you know, at times we may not have the same interests, but we have that familiar bond with each other, and that kind of is something that's more special than finding someone with similar interests. Like, there's only so much you can go with that, but having that bond, having that connection, like I felt in these characters, even towards the end when that was questioned a bit, because I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a whole, like, that's when I said before about the whole will they won't they type aspect that comes into play in the final season, where even though like our main character has gotten like stuff that he wants in life, he begins to question certain things, and it's all because of the part of growing up. Like, feelings change, emotions change, mindsets change, and definitely you see that go through with the characters. Like, you see them grow, you see them mature. I will say there was one thing in season 3 where I was like, nah, man, nah, like, you're not doing this for the peers' attention, but hell, it's middle school and that's how it works. So I'm like, I'm not really gonna disclaim you for like, hey, you're actually doing something that's actually from real life. But I'm like, okay, sure, go do that. I don't think it was the most responsible thing to teach children. Like, I don't want to say the lesson, because the moment that it hit back in season 3 at the first episode, if you know what I'm talking about, you please comment, like, you know, say like that moment too. I was like, that was so fucking funny, and yeah, it was about time that she got her due. I'm just saying that at all. I think I'm trying to, like, again, this is spoiler free. I'm not trying to get into any spoilers or anything. Standout characters, again, Ned is like, I try to be Ned growing up. I clearly wasn't. Ned's kind of like that example. Like, he wants to, like, he has a lot of advice to showcase, but he still has to accept the advice for himself, which I thought was a very interesting component, because normally you give the advice after you experience the incident, or after you had a certain experience that helps you form that that advice to another person. So that was kind of a different trope for me to see. Gordy, the janitor, also another staple of Scott Farrell's work, Scott Fellow's work, and also a very common staple of Nickelodeon back in that time period, where he was in everywhere. He was in animation, he was in live action. Like, the actor Darren Norris, he could do no wrong. What are he's up to these days? Should check in on him. It's been a hot minute. Another one that I cannot go to mention, The Walking Dead's, it's been a while since I watched the show. The name escapes me right now. The name really escapes me right now. I'm really hoping, Rosita, played by the lovable, Christian Serratos, who also played Susie Crabgrass in here. It's like, let's be honest with here, like, you know, as much as awesome Mose was, Susie Crabgrass was a lot of kids in my age's first real, like, TV crush. I liked her appearance in season 2 and 3. I wasn't a big fan of the tint red hair in season 1, and I don't know if that was her natural hair color, or they just did that for, like, you know, middle school experimental stuff. Whoa, like, let's dye our hair. It's like, I remember that time period, like, when I was in middle school, seeing, like, kids that were around me actually dyeing their hairs, like, crazy colors, and I can relate to that. I definitely could. I briefly thought of, like, dyeing my hair red, but thankfully that didn't happen. I was very thankful I didn't do that. Otherwise, I would have obviously been tormented to no death, if that had happened. But there's so many cool characters from that show. Like, again, I really, like, if this was a spoiler filled conversation, I would be here for hours. But thankfully it's not. But to kind of go back to my point, like, rewatching the show on Paramount Plus definitely rekindled my love with the show. I was very bummed out because it reminded me there was supposed to be a high school centric spin-off sequel series after the events of Neds, because that was just avenue of money, because these actors were still young. There's an entire 4 years of potential content to be made. Let's do a high school series. And I'm aware Devin, the main actor who played Ned, he signed on to do the show, but then the other two, like, it was a scheduling staff, because you didn't want to do Neds without, it's the same thing like with any show that is named after your titular character. Just because you have Ned there doesn't mean it's the whole show. You need a Mose there, you need a Cookie there, and if the actors were busy on other projects, so it sadly fell apart. Because again, when you're doing a teen-centric show, if your cast kind of ages out of it, then there really isn't no point to do the show. And yes, I'm aware, Tobey Maguire was 29, 28 when he filmed Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield was 29 when he filmed his own Spider-Man. So I was like, okay, yeah, I know that, but like, you know, this day and age, like, if you're a 25-year-old playing a 16-year-old character, like, it kind of like, you bat an eye a little bit. You really bat an eye. So that's just something that you need to be aware of. Let's just say that. Let's say that. But me looking back now, Neds Declassified was such a bliss to watch. It definitely was a blast down memory lane. I would love to rewatch the show at some point in the future, and hopefully the word of mouth gets out. Maybe we'll get like a new okay, Ned's is over, but like, how about a new Declassified series? You know, like maybe Paramount Plus can do like, it's a new cast and Ned's the guidance counselor and Moses the teacher and Cookie's the principal. I think that would be an amazing concept to do a sequel series. Like, you respect the legacy and also do a new cast. That's what I would prefer to do it, because iCarly did so well. And I hope that they do more for the other Nickelodeon backlog. I mean, we would all love a Zoe Wonder like finally resolving some resolutions. I would love also Big Time Rush reunion show. The band's back together. They could easily do a show. I know COVID's affecting that, but still, come on, let's do it. Do it for me. But you know, the door is open for it. I would not say no if more Neds were to come out in the future. And I think the actors are. I think it's the time period where like nostalgia is at an all-time high, and you know, I think people would resonate to that, and I would be honestly not, I wouldn't be surprised if that ever happened in the future, and I hope they do. But again, if this never does happen because the world hates me so much, I'm perfectly fine with this being like a very close end of story where like, yeah, Ned and Mose and Cookie probably lived happily ever after, and that's it. And I'm fine with that. I'm very fine with that. It's just like my brain, like, I want to see more. Like, I want to see these characters again. But will we actually? Who knows? Who would really know? And also, last fun aside before we wrap it up, does anyone remember Shredder Man Rules? That TV movie that came out like shortly after Ned's wrap? I got so confused when it came out, because like, is this a Ned's thing? Because like, I know it's typical for like actors from Nickelodeon or Disney Channel like do these offshoot movies, because like we have them on the contract, they're on our payroll, they're still good looking, and you know, the fans will like tune in because like, oh, it's this guy I know, but playing a whole different character. That was Devin's only chance, and I actually liked that movie so much, and I know there could have been more, but they never did, so I'm like, that was disappointing. That was a little bit disappointing. But does anyone remember that? Shredder Man Rules. Let me know in the comments below. I swear to God, the theme song from it, Better Days, was I think I finally found the MP3 of it, and I binged it a lot when I was working out. After I watched Ned's rewatch wise last year. So that was a blast from my past. I really did. But let me know in the comments below if you actually watched the Shredder Man movie. And let me know too if you watched Neds Declassified too, because that's what we were talking about here. Maybe I'll do a Shredder Man's review down the line. Who knows? But that remains to be seen in the future. I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So you can find all the episodes of Neds Declassified School Survival Guide on Paramount Plus. Go check it out there. Again, let me know in the comments below if you had watched the show, if you're interested in the show. Let's talk about it. You know, I like talking about stuff, because I for some reason I have a bunch of friends, they don't watch half the stuff I watch, so it gets lonely. I'm being honest there. I'm sorry. So let me know below. But again, for me, I would highly recommend Neds Declassified. It's a classic treat from the past, and I would very much love to rewatch it down the line some point in the future. Probably after I cancel Paramount Plus, once Halo and iCarly wrap up, and Frasier, whenever that comes out. So again, this has been ActionX talking about Neds Declassified here on What's the Two. Please subscribe to us on youtube.com/ActionX videos to see more What's the Two, which again, normally we will be doing our episode by episode reviews of shows right now, like a Rookie or a Walker. So check that out too. We do a ton of other quick impressions. We do a ton of other first impressions. We have another channel called The Collection Compass, so go check that out as well. But please, for this review, please like, favorite, share. Please get the word out. Anything will do. Helps us support us in every little way we can. Subscribe if you have not again as well. Ring the bell for notification when our next video is live. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with any sort of updates we may have for the channel. But until then, thank you so much for watching. I hope everything's well in your life, so please stay safe out there. Be good to each other, and as always, peace out.